Okay. Hopefully we'll get a better turnout.
This disaster in 1986, from 1986 until 2004, about 1 million people have been killed from radiation. I understand that many of the children born of parents who are in the area of Chernobyl are born with birth defects. We've had 3 major disasters. We've had nuclear disasters. 3 Mile Island in 1979, Chernobyl in 1986, and Fukushima in March of 2011. The disasters were a result of either an error, human error, or natural causes. And that the lesson to be learned is that you don't need a nuclear reactor to boil water. And that they should be shut down now. Jersey Shore Nuclear Watch is for the immediate shutdown of Oyster Creek. The Fukushima accident is tragic, and the consequences are as bad or maybe even worse than Chernobyl. There's no such thing as a good nuclear plant. All nuclear plants create nuclear waste. Nuclear waste is stockpiled, there's no place to put it, and it increases the chance of a nuclear accident. On today's program, we have Tanya Alcantara. She is a survivor of Chernobyl. She's been in this country for 6 years. She has 2 children. She was born in the vicinity of Chernobyl. I believe it was like 80 miles from the accident. However, it's left its mark. And Tanya is going to be talking about her experiences. At this time, I would like to introduce you to David Alcantara, attorney David Alcantara. He's going to introduce his wife and his daughter. Thank you. So let's have
Thank you, Ms. Edith Gerber, and thank you, Jersey Shore Nuclear Watch. My name is David Alcantara, and I'm the husband of Tanya Alcantara, seated right here with Victoria, my 15-year-old stepdaughter. Our 19-year-old daughter could not make it. She's studying for finals at Stockton State College. And I have my 11-year-old who could not make it. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Tanya is a graduate from one of the universities in Gomel, G-O-M-E-L, something spelled in H, which is one of the towns in southern Belarusia. Gomel is located anywhere between 50 to 80 miles from Chernobyl. At that time, Chernobyl was part of and Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union until 1991 when Glasnost occurred. And so it was all part of the same. And Tanya will tell you, I don't want to take over what she's going to say because she speaks English pretty good with once in a while a mixed up word. She was there, she was around 16 years of age. And when her brother, Pavel, and I handed out some flyers, he's now the head of the Liquidated Soldiers Project or Committee, which is the soldiers who were actually there at the mouth of the chasm to put anything and everything to close up the cauldron. And as a result, he was exposed severely and suffered radiation poisoning to the maximum. What's interesting is somehow he's surviving it, even with a lot of sickness, whereas it affects people differently. Strangely enough, they can't figure that out. Some people get more affected than others. And Tanya will tell you how she got a phone call from her brother, who at that time was 21 years old, and he was a sergeant in the military. I'm not sure it was the Army, but it was something similar to the CBs, construction boards, or the soldiers who went in constructing bridges, that type of thing. And he was in tip-top shape, horseback riding, shooting karate, taekwondo, that type of thing. So that may have helped his survival. So it helps to be in tip-top shape. And he made a phone call late at night, real quick. I'm in a hurry. I'm going somewhere. I don't know where they're taking me. I'm going to be gone for a while. Made her and her mother very nervous. And then about 2 months later, he heard from his brother, I'm in this place called Chernobyl. There's been a problem, something nuclear, radiation. In the meantime, slowly BBC is leaking out information before the Soviet Union about radiation affecting Norway, Finland, and the Northern European Baltic zone. And people in the Soviet Union are getting information about nuclear, but still they're not sure it's propaganda or not. So they're becoming slowly aware until finally it's too much to contain in terms of information. And the word leaks out that there's a massive explosion at Chernobyl. And of course, Tanya and everybody in that area got affected to a higher degree than most elsewhere because of the fallout. Luckily, she wasn't right at Chernobyl. And Chernobyl was a town of about 40, 50,000 people, and there were about 20 other towns in the area that ranged anywhere between 5,000 to another 50,000. They're all been empty. Como is 1 million people. And finally, her brother came back, and although the story here is not about him, and I handed out those flyers, the men who were sitting with him, helping him in the truck, dumping things, within a few weeks, his skin literally melted from his body like wax, whereas it didn't happen with Pavel, interestingly enough. How I got involved was I was donating a little bit to the Chernobyl Children's Project, and went and met him, met her, and became married there, and then brought them back here. So with that much said, I want to say much more. Nuclear radiation, as Edith, and I thank her for making this presentation, it's not a solution. Either the waste or one error, and you've got it, can't be stopped. And unlike television and news has been telling you, once a place is radiated, it's radiated for tens of thousands of years. That's it. So interestingly enough, in about 10,000 years, if we're still on this planet Earth, Belarus, and that area of Belarus, will be one of the few places in the world that no one can visit, and it will be a pristine forest that is radiated. It'll be one of the few areas in the world that is still in its natural state, and yet you can't go in because of the radiation. So it's very serious. It's not the solution. And I've been involved in the anti-nuclear projects all my life. With that having said, I don't want to take too much time. Victoria's here. She's 15. There'll be an answering question period. You can ask them. Victoria, if anybody says, well, were there Chernobyl, really, are there any people who really suffer damage? Here's 2. There's a 3rd. And the damage consists of Victoria with her back, her knees, and luckily it's of a mild nature, not like the kids there who have serious deformities. And with Tanya, with the glands around her throat, and the weakness and the tiredness constantly, which is due to the radiation, severe radiation, and her seeing the rain literally glow when it finally rained in that area, and it was glowing kind of like a yellowish golden rain. With the radiation just coming down. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, what you give to me speech. And
come closer to the microphone.
I apologize. My English not very well, and I try to explain to everything what's going on in this year and how people suffer in my country and how affected that. And my country and everybody else, and how suffer right now children who live in that place. And actually, at that time, in 1986, I have 15-year-old. Of course, nobody knows, nobody study about radiation, and we never know, but we have that like Chernobyl atomic station who give to for everybody electric and everything. Only what that happened, we don't know who just doing that and why. And only what that happened on April 26, 1986. Everybody like all of them, like government and politics, they just keep quiet about that. Not doing panic, don't doing that much information, and never not split to soldiers who been affected, like my brother, from Chernobyl. And they never give to that information for everybody else, and we don't know. And that time we don't have not internet, and little bit shortly we have information from TV. Only from radio, BBC and ACB, we see and listen that information like quietly. Only it's not give to that much, and just closed that information too. And actually, from me, affected very much, and we don't pay attention for that time. And when we see what so many children, young children, die from cancer, and they have like pain from bones, and pain from thyroid, and thyroid problem, and people just lose hair. That time, doctors and everybody else just give too little bit attention about that. Right now in my country, like twice from year, they take radiation from everybody and see what's going on with their thyroid. And actually, from me, it's affect too. I have thyroid problem. I have hurts my bones, all them bones, and I have arthritis. And I take everyday pills from thyroid and for all them bones, and extra pills for calcium, because radiation is go to for like broke calcium. My daughters, they affected me too. My older daughter, she's born, she's have like astigmatism in her eye. I'm sorry, please. It's so emotional and it hurts me. My younger daughter, she's have problem with her knees and her back. And they just like, baby, tell me, Mama, it's my knees hurts. And we don't pay attention for that, because we don't know what we do. And us doctor not inform us how we need help out. Yes, they give to us iodium pills that much and tell, oh, eat more fish and everything that have more iodium. Only it's not enough. It's too much. Thank you very much for listening to me. And it hurts me because in my family I have brother who suffered from that and very much suffer. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody, and I apologize that I take your time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My name is Lyudmila Shedeker, and I was born in Soviet Union. And I lived in my childhood not far from in a city named Voronezh. And 20 miles from this city, it's a power plant, nuclear power plant actually. And I have classmates who had leukemia and passed away from leukemia, from this sickness. Myself, I have problem with thyroid, and I have pain in my bones, and osteoporosis also. Actually, my grandma lived until 109, actually. I have very strong ancestors, but I don't know, my younger sister has a problem with thyroid also. And in Soviet Union, I can tell we lived very bad, it was very bad life there, right? It was a lot of bad things, but something was very good. I got very good education, for example, and that education was free for me. So I left Voronezh when I was graduated from university as mathematician, and I worked for nuclear Institute of Nuclear Research in Moscow. It was like a branch of Institute of Atomic Energy. Maybe you know about this institute in Moscow. And we research myself. I developed software and we investigated temperature fields in nuclear reactors. And I investigated Chernobyl reactor also. I remember my co-workers who worked for nuclear power plants, and I remember them right now. We didn't understand, about radiation at that time, and some people, they were not careful, they were not took care of themselves enough. And I remember my co-workers who were losing their hair. They were young, actually. They were losing their hair, their teeth. They had pain in their bones. They were not able to, sometimes, they were not able to move. They, sometimes so painful. I remember that day when it was happened, in April 26. I was in Moscow that time. And our government told us that it doesn't affect Moscow. And I remember it was very bright light. It was very sunny that day. It happened Saturday, but Sunday, I'm talking about Sunday. And the sun was very special light because its sunlight comes through like fog, but not very thick fog. After that, so we had like fall, leaves. They were green, but they fell down. It was in Moscow, very far, pretty far from Chernobyl, actually. And it was a lot of moth, white moth. It was explosion of that very small butterflies. Very small, it was like something around. They were everywhere. And I talked to my co-worker. I found your article in newspaper, and after that article, I read that article, I called to my co-workers. They continue to work. I can't tell everything, actually, but I can keep the secret, and I can be quiet. So Chernobyl was man-made. It was man-made disaster. In my institute, we had a group of people. I was in that lab, so to help scientists, actually. And so that team was responsible for investigation of nuclear disaster, nuclear accidents. So they wrote instruction how to bring that nuclear reactor to the accident. And another instruction was created how to escape this situation. And that time in Chernobyl, very young engineers worked. They were just graduated from university. So they were not very experienced people, actually. And it happened. They were not able to stop reaction. And it was like explosion. Horrible explosion, actually. The disaster in Fukushima is worse than Chernobyl and affects all of us. Very sorry about Japanese people. I'm really crying in my heart about the people. It's difficult to stop radiation from leaking into environment and poisoning it. So I learned from the media recently that we have radioactive iodine 131 on US territory, and other countries were poisoned also. Especially dangerous poisoning is with radiation of the water. We have Russian scientists who research this. Mr. John Goffman is an American scientist, and his scientific research proved that a safety level of radiation doesn't exist. Russian scientists Mr. Gorodnitsky and Parkhomenko in their scientific work, Hygiene of Labor during work with radioactive isotopes, discovered that distribution of isotopes in the human body are different. Bones are absorbing phosphorus 32, strontium 90, plutonium 239, liver cobalt 60, kidney ruthenium 106, thyroid iodine 131. Period of decay of isotopes are different also. Plutonium 239, life for 24,000 years. Plutonium was used as a Fukushima plant as a fuel. Fish, seaweed, shrimp, and so on absorb radiation and will be a danger in food. You know about iodine 123, Tanya told about that. So everything. So it's very toxic and destroys thyroid, immune system, brain function, metabolism, is harmful to the body. So, and unfortunately, the Soviet Union, all information about the negative effect on humans from any accident and nukes was hidden from the people to prevent panic. I see the same here in the United States. It's my country right now. I'm going to fight for my home. And you know what? I have to tell you that for nukes, there is no way they should exist on our planet, actually. Because if you store this radioactive waste, so nobody knows what happened. And actually, I'm a witness. I work very close to physicists and the chemists. They're very, very good. They're well trained in Cambridge and Rutherford lab. So, and they told they don't know what happened, actually. Because nobody lived 24,000 years, right? We can't. We don't know what happened next. So, I can name one Russian scientist, Alexander Kukushkin. He worked, it was 20 years ago, he worked, its name special, he worked on special powder. So instead rods to stop radioactive reaction, radio reaction. So you're supposed to put above of that destroyed atomic reactor, that powder. It will slow and slow down reaction. I don't know what he's doing right now because Soviet Union was collapsed. It was from one point of view, it's good. So you can you can get this knowledge from your education. You have to collect this knowledge all your life. And so that knowledge was lost. Nobody knows. Maybe he's taxi driver right now. My co-workers spread around the world. Some of them maybe work for Iran, maybe somewhere else. Nobody knows. So I'm here. I continue to work as a programmer. Then I became a teacher. So right now I'm retired. So it's my story. So it's enough. Thank you very much for your time.
Representatives act now on our behalf to close the 41-year-old obsolete hazardous Oyster Creek power plant, which, by the way, is the same design as the Fukushima plants. A major radiation release could threaten areas beyond the 10-mile zone, and lack of access roads would make evacuation impossible. The fuel pool and dry casks containing deadly nuclear waste, that's the spent fuel, are vulnerable to an accident or a terrorist attack. Every day the plant is open, it contributes to stockpiling of hazardous radioactive nuclear waste, which, by the way, as our speaker said, would be radioactive for hundreds of thousands of years. We ask that President Obama's $36 billion energy loan program be diverted to clean, renewable energy such as solar and wind power. And this is our petition. And if we get enough people, because it doesn't seem like anybody in the government wants to listen to us. They tell us we're safe, but we don't believe it. Nobody's safe. Nuclear power should be banned from the earth. And we want our children and our grandchildren to go living on in a clean environment. We don't want to be radiated. There's so much cancer in the world. Why? There wasn't this much cancer 25, 30 years ago. There wasn't. I mean, when I was a kid, I never heard of anybody having cancer. And to me, it's got to be radiation. It's got to be. Like she said, no level of radiation is safe. The unthinkable has happened in Japan and Chernobyl. Don't let it happen here. Thank you.
We do
energy efficiency work, home performance contracting. My mom over there is Kathy Sims. She's pretty active with Jersey Shore Nuclear Watch, and she has been protesting nuclear plants literally since the 70s. So I have actually had the privilege of growing up with parents who are both knowledgeable and passionate about doing things to improve our environment. At age 16, I installed my first geothermal system, and at 18, my first solar electric generating system. And while installing solar, I learned more about buildings. One fact is that 30% of the energy that we consume is pure waste. I don't think that nuclear provides more than 30% of our power source, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but just implementing some energy efficiency can alleviate our need for nuclear entirely, as well as other polluting sources. You know, we're trying to create energy where a third of what we consume is unnecessary. Straight waste, okay? It's pretty sad and sickening, and thank you both for sharing your stories. I mean, they touched everyone's hearts. I went to Virginia Tech, and I studied building construction and sustainable building, and got certified with the Building Performance Institute, and worked in New York and New Jersey in the field, assessing buildings and implementing solutions. At this point, in the past 2 years, the company I own, Bright Alternatives, we have completed nearly 200 projects, resulting in an average of 30% reduction in energy. And this is solely by implementing efficiency upgrades, you know, upgrading the technologies, sealing up holes to outside. The air sealing we completed resulted in closing about 200 windows, rather 400 windows. That's 2 windows per house that we closed. Okay, so let's close our windows. Let's start with that. So let's start with sealing up our homes and upgrading old, outdated equipment, reducing our bills by 30%, and then on-site generation with solar or wind that could take care of up to 75% of our energy needs. Or 100%, resulting in a zero energy building. Why not? Right now, New Jersey has substantial incentives to do both. Incentives that result in no money out of your pocket to add insulation, to install solar on your home, to eliminate the need for polluting, non-renewable, devastating energy sources. You know, that includes nuclear, natural gas, coal. They're not necessary. Why are we wasting our time? Really, for everyone who wants this plant to shut down, start at home. Do your part. You have 2 open windows in your home that need to be closed. So there are professionals in the state who can help. The place to start is with an energy audit. Get a roadmap. Figure out a plan. And realize that this doesn't cost you. It saves us all. So you can contact me or my mother, her company, Ecological Systems, or go to New Jersey Clean Energy website. You can find a couple hundred contractors who do these things, who will pay for you to solve our problem. Energy efficiency and renewable energy have the most stable return on investment that we can ask for in anything that we're investing on. You know, we're always going to have utility bills to pay. This is something that we get a return on investment of 10 to 20%. That's 5 to 10 year return on investment, and in some cases even less. So that's about all I have to say. There are solutions. Let's try to focus on the solutions.
Very good.
You know, we get pretty depressed thinking about all these problems. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
I got a question. Is part of the reason why they don't want to shut these nuclear power plants down is because they enrich nuclear material so that it can be used for bombs? Where's that done? Is it done there, or is it done someplace else?
You're talking about trying to make bombs out of nuclear waste. I think that the biggest reason why they don't want nuclear plants to shut down is the big companies like Exelon are making lots of profit. That's why. They are greedy for profit. They're not worried about human health and human life. And as long as they continue making money out of nuclear plants, they're going to try to continue to build them. In 1979, right after the 3 Mile Island disaster, a small group of people went on a campaign to stop the building of nuclear plants. They have not been built since then. However, some people came up with the idea that nuclear power is clean energy, and so there was an attempt made, and there still is, to build new nuclear plants. President Obama has a $36 billion loan program that he wants to put on the budget for new nuclear plants. There is a national effort on the part of anti-nuclear groups to try to fight against this.
I was very moved by our guests tonight, and I thank you very much for sharing your stories. It was very, very touching. And, you know, when you put it on a human basis, you feel it in your heart, really. And this is something that I don't understand, that the people of Ocean County are so apathetic about the monster that's here. And as far as the money is concerned, I have to say that Exelon bought that plant for $10 million. That's like nothing. That's small change. And they have worked out a deal now with the state where they do not have to start the real decommissioning for 60 years. That means that they can leave that fuel pool up there. That's true, they'll take out the fuel rods from the reactor, but they will leave the works there, and they could actually start up